Everybody, welcome to At the Buzzer. I'm joined, as always, by Jack Tiernan. Jack, how are you?
Good, thanks, Brian. How are you?
Doing well. And Ryan Flynn. Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Brad. Thanks for asking. I'm glad to be back.
Yes. It's been a minute. It's been really a minute since we've done anything. I know last time we talked, we jinxed the players. Let's hope that the last two episodes, the players we have in the thumbnail, I don't know if they've played since we put them in the thumbnail. So
Who are they?
there was Joel Embiid and what's his name? Jared McCain.
Jared McCain. Yeah, he was
We
really
literally had a whole episode being like, wow, he's been so great this year. What like a bright light for a team that's been struggling to have any, positive things this season, and the next day gets hurt for like the year.
They do I will say they do have that they have that other guy, Guershon Yabusele. Is it? You know what I'm talking about?
Hey,
I know.
You would know better than me.
Gershon Yabusele.
Yeah, whatever. But he's like he was like out of the league for a bit, and he's like come back, and he's just like a reliable starter. I feel like, which is kind of cool.
You know what the first team he played on in the NBA was, Ryan?
I think the Celtics, right?
Boston Celtics, baby.
I remember he was on the Celtics for a little bit, and he got I thought so, and he got it. Didn't he go Euro for a while?
Yeah, he is French originally too.
So he was like a guy felt like a career Euro guy, but then he came back and he's like pretty.
He's solid. He's been good.
Yeah, he got some rebounds.
He was a dancing bear in Boston. Throwback. But shout out my Gershon Yabusele fans out there.
Yes, and Philly, we won't put him in the thumbnail. We promise. We will probably put Jimmy Butler in the thumbnail. So been some interesting times for Jimmy. Not great. I follow a lot of Miami-based sports YouTubers because of the Dolphins. So I've been like hearing about certain things going on. But Jack, can you explain it for our audience? Like, what is happening in Miami with Jimmy Butler?
I think we should definitely red flag that there is a good chance that who knows what happens. This is a pretty fluid situation. He could very well, like tomorrow, say, I'm not playing basketball ever again. And then he would yet again have the Wicked Good Sports thumbnail curse. But I think, if anything, he, over the last couple of weeks, I guess at this point, has just been pretty much just indifferent to playing basketball, it seems, or at least playing basketball for the Miami Heat. We knew, and I think Pat Riley knew, I think any team that has worked with Jimmy Butler knows that that's kind of what Jimmy does. Like, he's kind of does his own thing sort of mentality. He's kind of like Ant Edwards, that is, except old and like less good at this point, I think, and like has kind of less of a bag, all things considered, but with all of the ego and like no real pull behind it. So he's kind of been saying like, I don't want to play basketball here anymore. And I don't know if that is in part to like Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo's ascendance. Like, Jimmy Butler is no longer the clear-cut number one on that team, to the point that I think he's frustrated with it. He wants to go somewhere, whether it be a place that is just no longer, at one point was his team, because the Miami Heat, let's face it, for the last 3 or 4 years has been his team. And now he's essentially, I don't want to say fading into irrelevance, because he's by no means irrelevant, but he definitely is less good, less durable, I guess, and less superstar than he used to be. So, long story short, he requested a trade. Pat Riley said, we're not trading Jimmy Butler. And he was like, fine, I guess I'll play. And he was suspended for a period for basically disobeying team conduct. So now we are at this point where he came back and played. Nobody really knew what he was going to do that first game, and he just was kind of mid, honestly. That was it.
Yeah, that was we got the famous tweet, the Chiron, that said there's a palpable dread about what Jimmy Butler might do when he came back from his 7-game suspension. Awesome. Love that. Love that someone said that about him. I mean, Ryan, do you think this is something that will be remedied, or do you think this is headed toward a trade?
I think it's kind of got to be a trade. I think with the way Jimmy and Pat Riley are, the thing is like, if it plays out for like a longer period of time, I'm just not sure that Jimmy's gonna want to. I'm not sure Jimmy's gonna willingly play he already doesn't willingly play consistently. So like, I don't know what that looks like because he's just going to be like, I'm hurt, or he's just going to, are they even going to play him? Because he's not going to put in all his effort. That's
No.
just kind of how he is. He's very upfront about his emotions. And also, the tricky thing is he's always been a load manager. So he's like big about like, if I'm injured, and he does it in this really tricky way. He's like, if I'm hurt, if my body's not right, then I'm not right. So I put everything into feeling 100%. So I think that's kind of where it started was, Riley made a comment that Jimmy does this on purpose. Basically, he's kind of soft, right? Because Jimmy Butler and the Heat pride themselves on being very tough. And I think ever since then, that's really when you could just tell Jimmy, right? I don't know the guy, but I get the vibe that you make a comment that he's like soft, basically like he's never going to forget that. And you're probably not going to be able to 100% rebuild that relationship. So yeah, I do think he'll probably have to move. I just don't know the logistics of it. Like what team wants him that is going to put up with the 40, 50 games? Right. That's a question because they're going to have to give up a decent amount.
Yeah.
Or it might look almost, it's not the same thing at all, but like the Ben Simmons thing where it's kind of like this longer period of time. But I don't think the Heat would, I think they would want to, but I think they would give in quicker than Daryl Morey gave in. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Like I said, I'm not sure it's going to be like extremely quick. I'm not even sure. Do they settle it this season? Who knows?
Right. Yeah, I mean, sorry, Jack, you go.
Real quick. Yeah, I was gonna say the contract situation makes it sticky too because his contract for
that goes
next
up.
year, yeah, it's a player option and it is for 52 mil. So he signed a 3-year max when he signed it, right? So of course, surprise, things have gone south, which happens typically with these max contracts. Not all of them, obviously. Like you look at Jason Tatum, you look at Jaylen Brown. Let's not curse them, but like for Jimmy, I mean. Yeah, you kind of know what you signed up for when you signed him to a max deal. So you got 52 mil on the line that he's going to accept, most likely considering his age, considering how he's played. So that's going to whatever team takes him.
Yeah, I think to be honest, Pat Riley is known for having a strong personality and conviction, especially in his later years. Not really in his early years, I think as much. But I think he probably should have kept his mouth shut on Jimmy until they kind of have figured things out more. Because they do have some interesting players, and it's like with Jimmy he'd probably play in the playoffs. It makes you guys might be competitive as a play-in team, but now you don't have him on your side. And Tyler Herro is honestly, I really didn't like him at first, but he's he's grown on me a lot. He's just like a pretty solid player. I think it's crazy. People used to compare him and Jordan Poole. Even when I didn't like Tyler Herro, it's absurd. Tyler Herro's a way better basketball player overall.
Agreed.
But it's not enough without Jimmy, I think, to really even make a dent.
No.
Maybe you win one series against like a really shitty team on a really shitty year, but I don't even know about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, Jack, do you have not a prediction, but like, I guess, where could he end up if he ends up anywhere?
I think Ryan and I were chatting about it earlier too. I think like if I had to guess, it seems like Phoenix is the like most likely scenario just based on like salary matching and like picks and assets. But like, I mean, what assets does Phoenix really have? They swung for the fences with KD and Bradley Beal for that matter. I feel like maybe Golden State. I think those two are probably the likeliest options. If I had to pick a dark horse, I would say maybe. I mean, I don't even know. Like that's the thing. Like I'm thinking about salary matching from that perspective. I guess I would go with Milwaukee, which is a really weird fit, and I don't think it would be good considering they already have shooting woes, and Jimmy isn't exactly known for being like a 3-and-D type of guy. like I just feel like you already have an old superstar in Dame type of thing, right? Like I don't think Milwaukee will end up doing it. I don't think Golden State is going to swing for a dude like Jimmy Butler because that again, like I think they would rather wait and like break the bank for somebody who actually is going to complement Steph well enough because Steph's durability is okay at least for the time being, and like his game isn't dependent on like being physically like bruising, you know. So like he can hold up a little bit longer, hopefully. Um, and then I guess you look at Phoenix and like you think about kind of disgruntled guys like Bradley Beal coming off the bench for Phoenix, which is kind of weird to think about. Sort of that like declining superstar at this point, like was traded from his original team that drafted him, kind of sucks now. Not I don't want to say sucks, but like he's not as good as what he used to be. Is also on like a max deal. So where do these guys go, right? If you just do the one for one and say, okay, that's kind of what it is, and then eat each other's salaries, or where do you go from there? Is there a pick attached to either of these? I mean, I think Jimmy is more of the liability just based on age and performance. So I think Miami would have to give up a pick, right? But at least one, maybe a first and a second. But I don't think either of them really have any near future first, to be quite honest. So we'll see about that.
Yeah, Ryan, do you have anything to add to that part of it?
Yeah, just that the Suns, I guess right now maybe seems the most likely, but the thing is, basically Miami has to just eat it, do like a Beal for Butler type of thing with some other stuff. The honest thing is I just don't. I don't really see why you would want Bradley Beal in Miami.
Right.
I think because like you look at the problem they had with Devin Booker and Bradley Beal in Phoenix, they're going to have that more so in Miami because I actually think like Devin Booker is probably more of a point guard than either of them. I mean, I think Harrow can play point guard for sure, but I think you're going to have the exact same issue. And again, Harrow, Beal, and Bam doesn't exactly like put the fear of God in anyone.
No.
And so that's, I think, tricky. I think the most interesting, personally, to kind of disagree with Jack a little, I think Milwaukee is probably the most interesting. In theory, Phoenix, it would make them better, but just the way they've played this year as a team and just what I've seen, and also the management there, just everything that's going on. Even if they do get Jimmy, I think it just continues to be a mess. I'm not sure that him, KD, and Booker all just like check in together. I think it's like this really weird team where like, right, the Suns looked kind of hopeful. Then it was like, all right, we got to fix some things. And then they completely blew up everything. And now he's kind of, you're stuck in this like, basically like star purgatory where Devin Booker is like kind of in the prime in his career. And he went from, I think, being supremely overrated. I thought he was very overrated for a while. Now he's probably actually maybe a little underrated.
I'd say underrated. I agree.
He's a good player. I mean, I
used to hate him. So
I still don't really like. I mean, he's not. I don't love him. He's just. I don't think he's that much more than a offense-heavy scoring guard with a little bit of like playmaking upside. That's honestly about all I see from him. I mean, he is a good like. I just don't think his ceiling. He's basically the maxed out version of Bradley Beal, or
exactly what I was going to say,
or Harrow, that archetype. Honestly, But again, the thing with him is what he demands, and he's not. I think he's very overrated defensively.
Oh, he sucks defensively.
Yeah, he puts. Well, he at first it's like that thing where like at first he was like overrated, then it's like because now some people are like he's horrible. It's like he does try. He used to. I haven't been watching him this year. He did when he had something to play for. He does try at times, almost does like the cat thing sometimes, where it's like kind of too much, and it's kind of embarrassing. Like he'll start like flailing his arms around and stuff. But
you think of all those pictures and screenshots that have circulated over the years of him like flailing, you know, like that's exactly right.
But, yeah, but look at like I remember one time when I always thought it was crazy. People compared him in. Well, actually, like a year and a half ago, some people thought he was better than Tatum. I personally thought it was even kind of. I think even him versus Jaylen Brown. I always thought Jaylen Brown was better, just overall. And if you remember, like at one point, Booker like defended him a couple of years ago in one game, and everyone was like, like, oh man, I can't believe that happened. It's like, who thought that was an appropriate matchup? Yeah, I don't care if they're the same position, and why? How would you think anything but Jaylen Brown would just destroy him if he's defending him? But he was willing to do it. Is my point. Like, I feel like a lot of star players aren't probably going to eat a play like that. He does, so there is that. But yeah, I just don't. I guess the Bucks would be my. I think it makes because we know that Giannis and Lillard are kind of locked in. Jimmy decides to get in with like 30 games left. Yeah, maybe those three. Maybe that's enough. I mean, that's a lot. Those are three really good players together, and yeah, Jimmy's shooting, but I mean, you really just own in on Dame's perimeter skills, and also you could put Butler. I mean, you could kind of put him you could put him at the 2, and then with like Giannis at the 4, you're pretty covered defense. If he's willing to play like fully on both sides, it does help Dame a bit. So I don't know how competitive it makes them at this point. I was kind of debating if they're even still like, a big viable threat, but but I mean, we're gonna have a really hard time guarding Giannis. So if we for instance, if we play them in the playoffs, I think we could get screwed.
Yep.
But the Knicks should make sure. I mean, well, they've got smaller guys, but
they got Cap
to guard Giannis.
I mean,
that's insane.
Just have him better than Horford or Porzingis, to be honest with you. Just have him.
No, I would think you put OG Anunoby and Bridges on him. I would think you have those two pretty much double him. Yeah, and you just try to cover Cat as much as you can, which is still.
Just keep him in the paint. I hate to say it. Like, he's okay. He's not good. Don't get me wrong. He's no Rudy, but he's something.
Yeah, you just have him kind of roam in the paint, but it's not going to stop Giannis because once Giannis gets downhill. There's nothing you can do because it's not like Giannis isn't going to be catching lobs. But
that's with every team.
Right? Giannis is going to be driving in, going downhill. And that's going to be hard for Cat. That's why, but if you have Cat kind of hang around in the paint and then you have the other two double team him.
On the perimeter. Just don't
in theory, I mean, it's just, I wouldn't say to get into it with the Celtics, it's not impossible for us because it's like in theory, we could do a similar thing where like JT is way bigger than both of those guys. I just mentioned him and Jaylen Brown. You really have them work on him. If there is a guard you don't mind getting on a switch on Giannis, it is. I mean, actually, there's Drew or Derek. They're great for that kind of stuff. As tough as Giannis is.
Yeah. Just to wrap it all up. Don't think Jimmy Butler will go to the Suns then.
I think it might be the most likely, but I don't. Yeah. I think it just crashes. I think he just goes to star purgatory, and maybe there's some momentum. I think it kind of crash and burns, and you just kind of forget about them. But they put up points and are a team in the NBA.
Yeah, right. I agree.